Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we've got a cooking video.
Oh my god, it smells so good.
I'm really excited to film one of these. I haven't filmed something like this in quite a while. We're going to be going through 3 high protein recipes. 2 of these vegetarian and 1 of these is a pescatarian recipe with prawns, so I hope you enjoy. First up, we've got a ramen noodle soup kind of thing. This is Asian inspired and it's kind of a recipe I've sort of like developed over the years. Like originally I did it off a recipe and now I've kind of put the ingredients in that I think are really, really appropriate. But I love Asian inspired food and it's just a really, really easy one. It's high protein, you've got your carbs in there and it's really filling because of like broth. So first up, I'm pouring some boiling water into the bowl that I'll be using and then into the pan, and this just stops me from getting the quantities completely wrong, which is always what I seem to do. And then adding in a vegetable stock cube. This is just one from my local supermarket. You can pick them up basically everywhere. Then we've got some fish sauce going in. This is one of my favourite Asian ingredients, and this is also something Elliot absolutely hates. And I got it all over his apartment the other day, and it just smells so bad, but tastes really good in there. Next up, we've got some soy sauce. I'm using the light soy sauce here for no reason apart from that it was the only one that Elliot had in his apartment, but a normal one will do just fine. I'm probably adding about a tablespoon in, but as you'll see, I never really measure out my ingredients at all. Then we've got some rice vinegar. I don't actually know what this does, but it just tastes really good and it makes such a difference having it in there. Then some sesame oil. This adds so much flavour, and I actually probably added in a little bit too much sesame oil there, but it always tastes really good. Next up, I'm just slicing up some pepper quite finely. Now, with vegetables, I tend to use whatever I've got in my fridge. So yesterday I actually made it with, I think it was mushrooms and carrots, but this time I've got peppers and I've got this kind of, I don't know what it is, like a small, maybe it's like an Asian cabbage thing. They all came in my odd box though this week, and that's why I've got some slightly strange ingredients here, such as a yellow carrot, but the spring onion also gives it so much flavour. Chilli, garlic and ginger, which I'm finely slicing here, are sort of non-negotiable ingredients, and they're definitely best having fresh because they add so much flavour to this recipe. I just sort of roughly chop these, but kind of as finely as possible, because then you don't get sort of big mouthfuls when you're eating it. Now just add everything that you've chopped straight into the broth and stir. I probably leave that for about 10 minutes on quite a high heat just to make sure all the flavours have infused. When that's been cooking for a while, I then add in 1 portion of rice noodles. These usually come pre-portioned out when I buy them. And then just some cooked prawns. Leave that for a few minutes just until they're both heated through, and then serve. Next up, we've got a tofu recipe. Now, I've learned over the past 1.5 or 2 years like how to cook a tofu properly, and I think I've really got it down to a T. So this is sort of like a teriyaki tofu. It's a little bit crispy with some jasmine rice and some greens. So for the next recipe, we're starting with the tofu. I always buy a firm tofu. The silken tofu doesn't actually work that well in this recipe, and just try and get as much liquid off it as possible. I've used half a block here, and I think they usually come in quite standard block sizes, and I'm just cubing it. It's really important to get as much liquid off as possible, and that's why I'm using a paper towel as well. It just really helps it to go crispy. The secret ingredient here is the corn flour. This is really the trick to having a great tofu, I think. So just spread some out on a plate and then add all the cubes of tofu to the corn flour and just make sure they are coated thoroughly. I'm using quite similar vegetables to last time in this recipe just because, as I said, that's what I had in my fridge, and it's really important to just eat what you've got rather than only buying things purposely for a recipe. So here we've got that weird little cabbage thing. We've got spring onion. And then I'm slicing some chilli and ginger finely as well. Next up, I'm adding some sesame oil to a frying pan and just weighing out my jasmine rice. I do about 2 small handfuls for myself and adding that to a saucepan with boiling water to cook. When the oil's hot, just add the tofu cubes quite gently to the pan. It's quite important you don't get loads of the corn flour into the pan as well, so I just sort of do this by hand. Make sure you keep flipping the pieces of tofu round quite gently so they don't break. Oh no, that backfired.
Got that.
Do you want to try it? No, you probably don't actually.
Not nice.
When it's got sauce on it. But it's really important to get them crispy on all sides and then add in the spring onion, ginger and chilli. Then I make the sauce in the pan for this recipe. I don't know if that's what you're meant to do, but it just works well for me. So that's some soy sauce going in there, a little bit of fish sauce as well. And you'll see the tofu looks like it's going even more crispy now. Then just add in a little bit of honey for sweetness, but if you wanted to make this recipe vegan, you could leave that out. And then a bit more soy sauce just because you want it to have a good sauce on it. I then add the cabbage into this pan and just cook it in there as well. That should cook for a few more minutes just until it's a little bit soft. Leave the cabbage to cook in the pan just for a few more minutes until the tofu's gone really, really crispy. Then just serving this all together, and it's such nice sticky teriyaki tofu. Last up, we've got a veggie sausage pasta. I absolutely love this meal. I just think it's such a comforting, warm, kind of wintry, I guess, sort of meal. And I use the Linda McCartney vegetarian sausages, which I probably discovered a few years ago now, and they are absolutely amazing. So I'm going to start with the pasta here, and I'm using the bowl that I'll probably use to serve it just to measure it out so I don't make far too much of it. Then just add a little bit of boiling water and leave that to cook while we're making the rest of the recipe. Next up, we've got the vegetarian sausages. Do make sure these are properly defrosted, unlike the ones that I'm using here. And then I'm using broccoli, pepper and onion as my vegetables in this recipe. I just feel like these 3 go really well with pasta. But again, you can kind of use whatever's in your fridge. Just roughly chop these, but make sure they're similar size to the sausage pieces just so it cooks evenly. This is something I actually learned at cookery school, and it's been a really good tip. Then add a little bit of olive oil to the pan and add all of those ingredients in to cook for about 5 minutes. Here I'm actually adding a bit of extra kale just because, as you can see, it was going a little bit yellow and off, so I just thought I'd add it in for a few extra nutrients. Leave that to cook for probably another 2 minutes just until everything's really cooked through and softened. And then slicing up a bit of garlic. I don't put that in at the start just so it doesn't burn, but I'll add that in with the tomato at a later date. And that's just me enjoying a bit of Coke Zero whilst I'm cooking. I then add the garlic into the pan with the rest of the ingredients, and here I'm using a passata for the sauce. I would usually use chopped tomatoes, but this was on offer in my supermarket. And then a little bit of honey, which balances out the acidity in the tomatoes. I learned that at cookery school as well. And then adding in a few herbs. I would suggest fresh herbs if you have them, but here I'm just using dry mixed herbs. And then taking the pasta from the pan and adding a little bit of the pasta water in at the same time, you'll see. It just helps the sauce to stick to the pasta, also something that I've learned over the years. Then adding a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then serving with some pecorino cheese, which I just feel goes really well with this recipe. So here we have it, 3 really easy high protein recipes that you guys can make at home. They're honestly so delicious, and I can't wait for you all to try them. And here we have myself, Matt and Elliot enjoying all the food that I made in this video. If you did enjoy it, guys, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment down below if this is the sort of video you'd like to see more of, and any ideas or requests that you've got, and I'll see you in the next one.